Hello, Rebel, and welcome to, well, a very, very belated refresh of foul language. We've been talking about bringing this back for a very long time, and I'm so very sorry it's been so out of the loop. But we're here, and we're doing it a bit off the cuff. We haven't prepared any questions this week because I kind of wanted to surprise everyone and go, hey, foul language is back. So I would like you all to welcome my guest, my new Season 8 interviewee, Mr. Superfedtv. Hello, sir.
Hello, everybody.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know who Superfed is, he's actually a really lovely fella who does loads of cool audio stuff that's dead funny. And we put on the podcast and it makes us look brilliant. And then we occasionally remember to credit him because I'm dead good like that. He's also quite good at just generally, all that kind of, organizing cats and herding people in the right direction and things, because he runs the sports reporter program for me, because I just kind of went, we're too big and there's too many divisions, someone else do it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I also occasionally play Blood Bowl.
You play Blood Bowl very, very well, given your current, I believe, second in Rel 1.
Yeah, up there somewhere until a couple people play at least. Top 4. The last playoffs was very much a Cinderella story for you as well, wasn't it? Yeah, that was interesting. I was not expecting to do well, but I did well. I made the quarterfinals. Got a hype video.
Everyone was talking about how they wanted Squiggy to do well, and obviously we did because we all love Squiggy. And everyone was talking about how they wanted Random Boy to do well, but it was mostly because it was vampires. But really, I was like, yeah, we're watching Superfed and his Orcs was quite an underdog story, I thought. And
I had the toughest road to the playoffs. I don't think anyone could argue that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I said that on the podcast a couple of times. Like literally, your route to the playoffs had went through the hardest matches I think anyone played across the entire playoffs.
Yeah.
So that was, and you killed a few teams along the way. Well, you certainly killed a few souls along the way. Jesus, there was some brutal matches in there.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with a very, one of our standard questions. If everyone remembers this, we used to do guest questions, and we used to do, from that the community would submit, and we'd also do ones that we asked regularly. However, we're kind of just going to go from stuff that I've thought of that would be interesting questions, and regular questions. So, how did you get into Blood Bowl?
So I watch a lot of Twitch. I got a 3-monitor setup, so I'm always playing a game, I'm always working on something, and I'm always watching Twitch. And I, was watching this guy named Strippin', and he starts playing this Blood Bowl game, and I'm like, there's dice, there's turns, and I don't know, there's odds and percentages. It looks a little XCOM-y, but I like the fantasy setting. So I bought Blood Bowl. 3 months go by, never played it, and I see him playing it again. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this time. And I played the single-player campaign, and I was like, man, I'm really good at Blood Bowl. I want to play this game against people. So I got online and completely got my ass kicked in the champs ladder a couple times. And I'm like, well, I'm doing something wrong. And conveniently, I just followed on Reddit the Blood Bowl channel, and I saw the Rebel post, and this is my first league. And so that was like February of last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that you mentioned the single-player campaign, and like, I'm so good at this game, and it's like, I think a lot of people do that, and it's actually why we have our purpose-built Rookie League, is to kind of help people over that realization that maybe you're not actually that good and need a bit of practice. And I know you were involved there. You played there for a while as well, didn't you?
I missed the boat on whatever season it was at the time. And so they're like, well, you can play in the Rebel or you can play in the Rookie League, but you'd have to wait to play in the Rookie League. And I'm like, well, I just want to play this game, so I'll just go live. And then after my first season in the Rebel, they're like, well, we can't really get you in the College League. You're doing fine, because I actually won a lot. And so they said, well, you can play in the minors. And so I played in the minors, and I did win in the minors. I played Lizards. I had never played them before. And I thought that would have been, somewhat of a handicap. And it kind of was, but there's some good games. But it was apparent that I no longer deserved to play with the rookies. So I stopped at that point.
Yeah, and then just made a very questionably themed team and went, hey, let's play with these instead, right? I mean,
well, yeah, I did that before I even, before I understood the everything about this. All I knew was what I had seen on Twitch. That was,
So, you got the get a good theme for your team bit.
Right. That's exactly what I got. Yeah.
I mean, that's important. That is, I mean, we see all these guys coming up with like unnamed players and
ASCII
stuff.
rats or no potato.
I'm grinding my teeth right now just thinking about those guys. No, it's a thing. So what was the first team, right? When you were destroying campaign and then went out onto the open ladder, what team was it you picked up? Another one of our regular questions. What team was it you picked up? What did you start with?
I liked the orcs. I really did. I thought, I don't know what it was that originally drew me to them, but I do remember the conscious decision of once I joined the Rebel, I said to myself, I'm just the kind of person that never does anything halfway. So, once I joined the Rebel and I made my orc team, I remember looking at all the different other orc coaches and I said, I want to be the best orc coach in the world. What's it going to take? And I looked at the champ ladder and who played orcs there. And then one of the cool things about Blood Bowl is the Cabal Vision client. You can watch anybody's games. And so I would just spend probably, 10 hours a week watching Pete and Erwinder and who was doing on Stringer Bell on the champ ladder, and watching them play their orc games and how they leveled up and taking notes of who they prioritized leveling up and what skill order and things like that. I didn't know any of the logic behind it, but I just mirrored that and it worked out pretty well.
Smart people are doing this, so it must be smart.
Yes, exactly.
No, that's a fair way to do it. I mean, Pete actually went on a huge tear when he first joined Rebel with his orcs as well, to be fair. So, he is a good one to watch for orc tips. But now you've become one of those guys that's actually a really good one to watch because, and this is a question I want to ask, was, are orcs still your favourite team? Are they still the one that lights the fires for you? Or have you found another love since then?
I've merged now into playing a lot of teams. As long as I see the team is competitive, play them well. Like I'm such a tryhard that I'm not gonna probably play orcs forever. Probably gonna start playing Skaven specifically because I just think they're the best team in the league, or not in the league, in the game. Because they've got so many options. But at the same time, I know that rats tend to lose games just by being rats too sometimes. So.
Rats are. I mean, I've made this argument multiple occasions that, in my opinion, Skaven are the strongest team in the game, just because their options and they might have rubbish linemen, but everything else on the team is so good that it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
I
like high elves. I like. I'm actually I play in a North American league, Nats, and I won season 10 with Chaos Dwarves. Which was fun. I'm actually undefeated right now on Amazons in that league as well, and they just seem to be untouchable. So I'm doing pretty well with them. But I wouldn't say I like them. I think my first love is definitely orcs, but it's I've kind of evolved into things with higher skill caps, I think is the way I would look at it.
I don't know. I mean, I think orcs are pretty good, but you have actually, like I say, you've developed your own style, and you do play quite differently to a lot of the more well-known orc coaches across Rebel. Like, obviously, I mean, we all know Papanasti has a very, very aggressive. I'm gonna go for casualties above all else and use those to swing the game. And you obviously have quite famously beat Papanasti in the playoffs by playing what is, I would call, more of a control method, which reminds me a lot of Gerber.
Yeah,
he plays.
Yeah, and I watched Gerber a lot as well. I do like the control aspect of it. My problem was that for all of last season, and I think a lot of the season before, I got so focused on conservative play and making the least risky plays, and that isn't going to win you games so much as tie you games. I think I could go 1-1 against anybody a lot of the time, but I got to the playoffs with 6 draws, but I realized in the playoffs that I needed to make risky plays that had the right payoff. So yeah, I'll attempt a 66% play that gets me in a better position than a 95% play that doesn't really gain me any advantage. And once I started making that shift, I noticed that I started winning more, and it actually made a difference to not just make the conservative play every turn.
Yeah, I mean, you became quite famous during playoffs for being the guy that no one wanted to hit overtime against.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people assume, oh, if it's overtime, like you win the toss.
And I won without ever winning the toss.
Yeah, you win the toss. It's probably you're a shoe in for the win in the game because winning the toss is very, very strong in Blood Bowl in the way the overtime format currently works. But you turn that on its head completely, and it was just like nobody wanted to hit overtime against you because as soon as they did, you just destroyed them. Would you accredit that all to that riskier style of play, or?
I think so. Yeah, I think it put people off guard because they weren't expecting, an Agi 3 to make the cage dive, or not the cage dive, but like the screen dive, I guess is the right way to put it. Because, it wasn't like I was rolling 5+ every time, but, against Papa Nasty, for example, he bet the farm to try and knock over my Blodge Firm against his ball carrier, including making a block with his ball carrier instead of trying to dodge away. And I was then able to red dice his ball carrier, who was Blodge as well. But I had tackle, so it was basically a double 5+. Pick up the ball and then run away. So basically doing the riskier thing that people don't expect you to do when you're playing a conservative team, I think just caught him off guard.
Yeah, I think you may have already answered the question I was going to ask, but what I was going to ask was if you were giving advice to someone picking up orcs, what would be the first kind of couple of bits of information you'd say, do this?
Don't play for the Kaz, play for the control, definitely. Make sure that your main goal is to keep your black orcs between the ball and the end zone. And if they're not, then you need to make sure you're getting more value out of them than your opponent is. So if you think of a black orc with block and guard as 120k, you need to make sure that you've got at least 140k stacked up against him and unable to move. And so that would be, 4 zombies. Well, you're probably not going to get that, but maybe a white and a zombie and a ghoul. And now you're getting value out of it. That's how I always see the control game is what value am I getting with my piece here versus what my opponent has in value tied up into this spot.
Essentially making positive trades as far as player value.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's a really good bit of advice. I like that a lot. And I think that is very much speaks to a very control-oriented playstyle as well, because if you're sticking like a Nurgle warrior or a Black Orc against one zombie, your opponent's probably going to outposition you.
Right.
Well, you'll probably kill the zombie.
You could, but at that point, I think you're prioritizing the SPP, which, for the first 2 seasons, that's pretty much what I did. I prioritized the SPP. And when you're developing, I think there's an argument to be made for that. If you're playing rookie Nurgle, you've got 2 seasons before you're really competitive, in my opinion. We've got some Nurgle coaches that are doing very well right now this season with their first season Nurgle,
it interests me watching coaches on first season Nurgle. Like, Synergy down in the Big O is doing incredibly well, but I had an awful first season on Nurgle. So
well, you played with Mighty Blow and tried to stack SPP, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, if you want to win, there's a lot wrong with it. Trust me, from experience.
you're hedging for the future, or you're investing in your team to develop them.
We're coming good now. Mm-hmm. But it took us a while to get here.
Yeah.
Now, my next question is: what is your favorite skill in the game, and what is your favorite positional in the game or player? If you really like lineman, you could answer lineman, but that's
favorite skill, I think. I'm not going to say shadowing. That is the meme answer. Strip ball is the skill that I always want to get, but I can never figure out when to get it and when to use it right. I know obviously clearly if you've got a war dancer or you've got a gutter runner with wrestle, that strip ball just happens and it does great things. Most of the teams that I play, like with my orcs, though, all have either sure hands, so there's not really a benefit to it. But it's a skill that I want to get to use better, especially as I'm looking at upcoming events where skills matter and you're playing at lower TV. You're not going to see as much sure hands, and so that's the skill that I like it. I like what it does. I like the plays that you can set up from it, but I haven't really mastered it as well as I'd like. So it's a skill that I'm consciously thinking of and looking and evaluating. Would this have made a difference in this match over tackle? And the two, I think, just kind of go back and forth. Tackle, I guess, is probably my favorite skill. I have more of it than most people.
I have a funny feeling that if you are looking to invest in rats in the future, you are going to have a very long love affair with strip ball. Yeah. Rats are one of the teams that do enjoy having strip ball a lot.
Wrestle, strip ball, red dice. I'll take that all day.
Yeah, you learn to. So what is your favorite player then in the game?
It's probably becoming Gutter Runner because of all the fun access that they have. But I probably like High Elf and Pro Elf Blitzers the most. They've got good movement. They've got the starting skill of block. You can do some crazy fun things with them. In my Champ Ladder run that I actually made the playoffs with High Elves, I had a Strength 4 Blodge Firm diving tackle High Elf Blitzer. And so I would Strength 4 blitz into the corner of the cage and then just stand there. And then they had to remove him, otherwise he would diving tackle their ball carrier. And so that was like the ultimate of control for me. Like if I was playing Nurgle and I had a stand firm diving tackle Nurgle warrior with disturbing presence as well, so he can't just hand it off, I think that would be a unstoppable. See,
I wanted to try that, and then not a single one of my Nurgle warriors has rolled a double once.
Yeah.
Other than the one guy who got plus strength, and you don't pass a plus strength for diving tackle on Nurgle. Funnily enough.
Yeah, I could see that being a little more valuable. Strength 5 with tentacles.
Well, tentacles will be his legend skill if he ever makes it.
Yeah.
It's a long road.
It's more like, are you going to play them long enough to get there?
Well, no. Sadly not. Okay, so obviously you've come to learn quite a lot about the game now. You've spent a bit more time with it. Is there any rules in the game that you would change if you had the power?
I think I would really attempt to take on the skills as a whole and maybe do some rebalancing or I don't know if balancing is the right word, but just try and make all of the skills a little bit more attractive of the ones that aren't used very often. And
pass block good again.
And try and get some auto reroll skills on things that don't necessarily have them. So I think there should, maybe not Sure Feet, but a skill that, gives a double or gives you a reroll on leap to have a synergy there. It's maybe, and then like something with Sneaky Get to make that also a little bit more attractive. I think there's things you can do with the skills that are there to make it, I don't know. So there's more choice and distribution, and you can see, okay, this player has one clearly defined role based on the 3 skills that he got, and he does it very well. Because right now, if you've got access to it, it's so good to take Blodge on every piece. If you've got just an unskilled player for your first 2 level ups, and then kind of go from there for anything else. And I think if you made the other skills a bit more attractive, you would see a lot more diversity in the teams and the skill ups. So Sure Feet is one that I think almost gets a bad rep unless you're a one-turner. And I think that it could do a lot of good things.
Maybe even like allowing a reroll on a landing for like a stunty or something would be
right,
really good.
Right. Yeah, that would be the same one for leap. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you've got Sure Feet. You can land well. That to me sounds like it should work.
I do think that the throw a teammate one-turn play should be adjusted. That string of dice, I think, could be adjusted to make it a little more reliable. As weird as it may seem.
No, I kind of hear you, because I mean, like, it's very, very powerful and very, very good. But considering it can be ruined just by your opponent kicking well,
I think the whole always inaccurate thing is even just unnecessary. I think that the throw should be harder. So if your counterplay would be marking it up, and keeping it marked, the big guy. But I don't necessarily think that it needs to always be inaccurate. Or maybe the scatter needs to be smaller. Maybe it's just a scatter of 1 square. But that's just my opinion on that.
That makes sense. As I say, it'd be interesting to see what Blood Bowl would look like under our new overlord Superfed.
A lot more competitive, I would say.
Fair enough. There's a lot more throwing teammates by the sound. Monty would love it.
Yeah.
So also, right, we have recently officially made you an admin. You've kind of been doing a lot of like bits and bobs with the sports reporters and stuff that was very admin-like, and I eventually just went, you know what, let's stop messing around and make Fed an admin because it's about time. And you do, you know, obviously quite a lot behind the scenes and stuff. Is there anything in Rebel that you've suggested or that you would want to suggest to change that you haven't yet, that hasn't been changed yet?
I mean, if it was my league, I would have overtime every game. I want a clear winner every game. Would that favor Bash? Maybe, maybe not. I can argue both sides of that, but I feel, I don't know. I just don't like ties. I really don't. And that's saying it as the person that qualified for playoffs with more ties than anyone else.
I was going to say, wouldn't this hurt you?
Yeah, maybe, probably. But I just, you know, after playing so much overtime and not just our playoffs, but in other playoffs, the game feels more complete to me. Now, obviously, when it goes to kicks, it doesn't, but it still feels like you get that resolution. Whereas, you know, if you see a 1-1 drive, I stall out for 8 turns, you stall out for 8 turns, it doesn't really feel like you got your resolution there.
I feel like it would certainly make the game a lot more dramatic, although also a lot longer would be a concern.
Yeah. But I know people got time constraints, but I just want a winner.
I understand. As I say, you'd have to fix kicks. There's no two way about it. Kicks is the worst thing, in my mind, in the entire game.
The only thing I like about kicks is that it does reward you for reroll control. But
it can reward you. Your opponent could still roll a 6 and you could just roll a 1.
That's true. It's true. Reroll control is so tough to learn, and I still struggle with it.
That's fair. Right, okay, let's have a look. What is next? What are your feelings on the massive upswing in Necromantic we've seen recently? Because there's like 4 of them in your division. Although, well, there's technically 3 of them because I don't think Rumblebee's team counts anymore.
I wasn't expecting this, but I actually have a good answer. It's a response to lizards, I feel. Well, maybe not just lizards, but lizards have always been popular, and our league, and most leagues in general, I think a lot of people think they're very strong and overpowered. And I played them pretty well too at one point, but I think that Necro are a good counter to lizards, and I think that everyone sees Claw and just assumes that Claw is, you know, the essential to winning, and there's been days where I've felt that way as well. And with the fact that you've got the natural claw, and all it takes is 1 double to get the Mighty Blow Claw, and if you're really lucky, the Claw Palmer, which we just seem to have sprouting up all over the place here. And so I think that that's what draws everyone to the team is, you know, a very trim, very TV efficient Claw Palmer team with a good record. I think Horny Cricket has done... Well, Horny Cricket and Fiction both have done a lot to convince people that they are a top team that, you know, you could win on whether or not everything goes your way or not. You can still pull out the win because they've got the movement to do a 1 turn. They've got kind of all the skills like Skaven do, but their efficiencies are just a little different, and the areas that they focus on are a little different, and good fouling pieces. So... I
actually do really enjoy playing Necro myself, I have to say. They are a team. For me, I just like the thematic of the team. I love the idea of like a Monster Mash kind of team where you've got like zombies and werewolves and stuff like that. So if I ever played them, it wouldn't be because they're stupidly powerful and Cricket told me they were good. It'd be because I really just quite like the look of the pieces. But I understand. I agree with what you're saying a lot where it comes to lizards. And I actually, follow-up question, because obviously you did mention about Claw, is as an Orc coach, and as someone who had such a hard route for the playoffs, you went through an awful lot of Claw to get to the distance you went. And you seem to do rather well out of it. I'm
playing the game. I know you don't see this, but I'm actually playing the game with Sace, which is, you know, as you're growing up in the league and you're playing Claw. Sorry, I'll let you finish your question, but you're just terrified as the orc coach of a team like Saces. But you just kind of, once you take it on the face once, you kind of learn, okay, it wasn't the worst, you know?
Well, isn't Sace officially the Rel 1 boogeyman?
Essentially, that's what it was. I mean, yeah. But Viking Cop is what gave me the courage to face Sace and not just cower away and hide, you know, to reduce your blocks and all that stuff. It turns out Chaos doesn't get to have all the Claw Palm and all the guard. And so if you've got guard, you can actually control sort of where things go. Now, that doesn't stop you from dying when you dub skull and punch yourself and die that way, but if you can focus their killers, and they're typically, I mean, you can get the numbers advantage because they've got a lot of AV8. You can definitely reduce the attrition that you suffer through guard and targeting the right players. Like, I didn't really care about his ball carrier. I didn't need to on Viking Cop or Sace. It was just a matter of, you know, isolating the killers, making sure that either, you know, they were punching cheap linemen or I was punching them back.
You've finished my question. I think you knew where that question was going. It was the how do you survive Claw?
Yeah.
And yeah. You knew where that was going before me. It's almost like you should be running the show, dude. I swear to God.
Well, speaking of that, I think that's a good segue there. I'm taking over. You've done a great job, and you've got a bunch on your plate. I think the league has tripled in size since I signed up, and that's probably the last time that foul appearances occurred too. Was right around then with Raven Post. So I'm going to take over the show.
Was it Ravenpaw Foul Language we did? Was he the final one? God, it feels like forever ago, dude.
It was. That's what I'm saying. That was when I started. And
yeah, you put me out of pasture is what you're saying. You're taking it over my gig.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that. So I'm going to flip the script and interview you a little bit here.
Okay, cool. Well, let's dance. Perfect.
So, first of all, you do a podcast, a little thing that some people here might have heard of, called the Rebel Alliance. Tell me a little bit about what's, not just kick that off, but also what drives you guys to do it each week, and how do you keep finding ways to keep it engaging after 50 episodes, I think we're at now, or over 50 episodes?
Next episode is episode 49.
49, okay, we're almost there.
It staggers me, right? Every single time, it staggers me that we've got this far. Because essentially, we started as a joke. It was like the best things in Rebel. It was an off comment it was Squiggy. I was actually on Foul Language. One of my regular questions was, what would you do to Rebel? Which obviously you've heard. What would you change in Rebel, add to Rebel that we don't have? And he went, well, I really like podcasts and commute a lot, and I'd love to hear a podcast. And I went... And, you know, Rebel's always been about trying to find a different way of doing what everyone else does. You know, finding the better way of... And I think that's one of our strengths, is that we're really open to community feedback. We listen to people. And if people say, we really want this, we'll sit there and go, can we do that? If we do this and maybe do this, and can we make that happen? And, like, me and Haringzord specifically spend an awful lot of time just talking about what we call rebeling it up. You may have heard this topic come up on one of our recent episodes, actually, where we just put a bit of a spin to it, make it a bit different, make it a bit unique. Something that would make you want to come to Rebel, as opposed to, well, I could just play in TBBL or OCC, which, you know, I'm not going to get into a way better than them or anything. It's more a case of
we're different.
They have their niche already. Mm-hmm. And why should we just do what they do? Because they already do it for us. You know what I mean? If you wanted to play the TBBL rules, you'd be playing in TBBL. So
right.
Doing the same thing doesn't work. And yeah, it was essentially this one comment. Now, we've always been about making a lot of content. I mean, even when Gamba was, was the boss, everything he did was, YouTube videos. Our announcements for our first 3 seasons weren't even done on Reddit posts. They were done on YouTube videos that ended up on a Reddit post afterwards. Because he obviously I don't know how much you know about Gamba, but he is dyslexic. So he found writing, I quite like writing silly, long, run-on sentence kind of posts because I kind of just feel like that's part of my character now.
That's why Metal's so great and does everything so awesome all the time.
Well, it's just that I think people
Said
expect
no one ever.
that. If you made that super clear for me to understand, and it's the traditional playoff bracket post, isn't it? No, but everyone's kind of used to seeing that style of writing and stuff from me. Whereas with Gamba, it was always videos,
right?
And we grew up that way and became this content creation league. So when someone said, "Well, here's a type of content that you don't do that I'd like to see," we kind of just went, "Well, there's a challenge." And as far as what keeps us doing it, it's genuinely just the fact that me, Haringzod, and Kejaroos have just become really good friends. It essentially feels like it's turned into 3 dudes meeting up for our weekly pint and talking about this game that we really enjoy. I mean, it's like the kind of thing you do with your mates if you wanted to go watch some football.
That's
and
cool.
That's really what keeps us doing it. And the fact that, frankly, people seem to really enjoy it. I mean, I don't know if you caught the latest episode yet. Episode 48.
Oh yeah, I'm always up to date.
Well, yeah, we actually we talked about listener figures, and we have like 400 regular listeners, which is quite impressive considering there's only 370 coaches in Rebel. Obviously, I know a lot of Rebel listen to it too, but
right,
400 individual listeners just staggers me because I still don't think it's. I worry that it's not that good. Because we genuinely make it up as we go along. I mean, you've been on the show. We kind of just I've started trying to make it a bit more professional now, and I have like a little notepad with a few jotted down bits and bobs on. But genuinely, we make it up as we go along.
That's impressive. Very impressive. I've done my contributions to it because I also really appreciate the work you guys do. To me, I was hearing it and I'm like, well, this isn't a podcast because we don't have, the intro music. So I figured I would just kind of step up and do it. And if I figured, I don't know, they might not even like it, but I'm just gonna see if I can contribute in some way. And so I did that. And you guys seem to like it.
If it makes you feel any better, right? I could just import the audio file at the start of every podcast and just go, done. But I actually record, I kind of import it and listen to the audio file every time because I really love the intro.
Yeah.
So I listen to that intro every week.
That's awesome.
Because I'm a big fan. So yeah, we definitely love the. I mean, the first time you sent it to me, I got to confess, I wasn't entirely sure who you were because as we've got bigger, it was like. For 50 episodes, we're talking over a year ago. We've been going for over a year now. So
yeah,
I've been, I try and learn a little bit about everyone in the league. So I've got like a little private joke or something I can ask about or whatever. But genuinely, you sent it to me. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I really like his work. and it was kind of from there that obviously we started talking and became, got to know each other a bit. But yeah. It was out of nowhere. And I loved it. I was a huge fan. So anyone else who wants to make content, I mean, that's always been my thing. Make content, do it.
Yeah, exactly. I've always found that, especially with content creation, you don't wait for someone to ask you for it specifically. Like they may say, hey, it'd be nice if we had this, and then you go out and do it. But just in general, if you have an idea for something, do it. And the other advice I would have for that is embrace the cringe. Someone out there is always going to be like, oh, cringe. Oh, that was so whingy or whatever. Like, just embrace it. If you're having fun, somebody else out there is also going to have fun. And maybe you're just doing it for the hell of it. And that's okay too. But if you never know what you can accomplish until you at least set out to do it when it comes to content creation. And a lot of times you're just learning skills that you can eventually apply elsewhere too. So
I like that a lot because, frankly, I mean, you can see we embrace the cringe. We have a regular weekly dad joke contest.
Yeah, exactly.
People go to me, those are awful, Metal. And I'm like, I know, isn't it marvelous?
Yep, that's the best part. Yeah. The probably the cringiest one I'd done was the Purple Saber one, but you guys still reference it every week.
I love it so much. I send it to him like on a weekly basis because he hates it.
I know. That's why I like it even more. Yeah, it's great. No, that's good. And funny that you mention getting to know people. That's actually the reason why I want to bring this back, and I want to do the Foul Language Show, is to interview coaches that everybody else in the league hasn't talked to or heard from. I mean, I knew about Hipster way before everybody else. Get it? That was a hipster joke. About Hipster, right? That was not a rehearsed joke either. But I knew about him because I was covering him in the league, and I knew that he was a really, really good elf defense coach. And so when he was doing well in playoffs and you guys were talking about him, I was like, oh yeah, you guys got to know a Hipster. And I just kept thinking, man, it would be so much more interesting in the playoffs if everybody knew about all these other coaches. And the best way to do that in my mind was something like this, where, we're talking about them each week and maybe playing the game of theirs or whatever. So that's my passion and reason behind wanting to bring this back.
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved it. I've had such great conversations with some people. Like, a lot of people see like, for example, Sage as being quite dry and humorless because obviously they see Game Face Sage on his stream where he's talking about actual strategy and tactics and things like that.
Right.
But if you actually sit down and chat to Sage, he's a lovely fella and he's actually really funny.
Yeah.
And it makes me kind of like, whenever you see anyone do the Sage is dead boring line in like Twitch chat or whatever, and it's just like, you actually don't know who you're talking about. And I think it's such a shame. And I love that aspect of it as well. And that's why I originally did the show. Like I said, my problem's become real life is fairly untenable for interviewing people from across the world. Like, I got up I think Sandoon was the worst. I got up at like 6:30 a.m. to chat to Sandoon.
That's putting in the effort for sure. So let's switch gears a little bit. There's a small little event coming up called the World Cup. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
I've spent a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out what we were going to do, put it that way.
Let's start with those sleepless nights. So, of course, we want to put our Rebel spin on it, and you did that. Tell me about the process of making and appeasing a 400 individual league to whittle them down to 4 people. Well, it wasn't even originally 4 people. It was somewhere between 1 and 5 people. Without
X,
knowing.
Find X where X is unknown, and we're not going to give you
but less than 6
equation. Yeah, it was right. Cyanide. I love that they're putting so much focus on community leagues, and naturally, I am absolutely stoked that if anyone who's listening to this doesn't know, we got more tickets than anyone. And if you don't know, you've not been listening to me because I've been shouting it from the rooftops. Because to me, it feels like validation from Cyanide that we're doing, that they recognize what we're doing here. We put a lot of the admins. You've seen this. The admins put a lot of work into running the league and stuff, and we've worked our butts off to keep growing. And the fact that they saw that and kind of just went with it and went, yeah, you guys are the biggest, have 4 tickets was massive to me. But essentially, the process we go with the rules is, with any rule set we run, usually it's me or Haringzord or someone else, like XS wrote the Elf League rules. And we'll sit there, 1 or 2, and I'll sit there and I'll talk to Haringzord about it, and I'll make some edits, and we'll say, well, do we like this? Do we not like this? Is there things we should change? And then I throw it out into the admin channel and go, guys, have a read of this. And then they all shout at me for about 3 days, maybe longer. In this case, it was actually quite a bit longer. I got shouted at for a long time.
Mostly by me, actually.
Yeah, there was a lot. You shouted at me a lot. Yeah. I remember that. I was like, does he even like me anymore? Are we not friends anymore?
There's a couple people in the admin chat that have been questioning how much I like them lately. I'm very passionate about competition. I'll just put that out there.
No, and I agree. And I mean, it's weird, right? Because the admins I'm going to go really off topic. I always do this. You've listened to the podcast. This is part of the course if you're going to have me on and ask me questions.
Yeah.
I obviously am very passionate about what we do here, and I love that the admins have kind of went with that. if you thought, the admins love the league as much as, and that's why they're admins, because they want to do that extra bit. No one pays us. You know what I mean? I mean,
Right.
I occasionally have got like a 10 quid donation from someone who went, that's for you, not for Rebel. And most of the time it still went to Rebel anyway. Because it kind of feels weird taking people's money.
Right.
But, or one time someone gave me $20 and I bought Harring's on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
So to say thank you for all the work that he'd done.
Right.
But what I love about the admins is they're really good at playing devil's advocate. So we don't kind of take it personally, but someone will always take kind of the side away from the main argument and argue, even if they don't necessarily believe the argument themselves, they'll try and put up the best defense they can. And that's why we know that when we do take action against people or put something in place, it's probably the best thing for the league, because there's always been someone looking at every angle, and I like that. And that's why we threw it out there and I let people shout at me for a while. And then once you've had a shout at me for a bit and we've tried to figure out if it really is the best rule set or not, I then ignore mostly everything that got said to me and do what I wanted anyway.
Yeah. That's
not quite. I mean, we do.
I may have noticed that. I may argue less passionately in the future.
No. I mean, it's not actually that bad. Come on. But
no, I know. I'm giving you shit because we still don't have overtime. But there's certain things that just work and certain things that just don't. And I will always have the conversation, but sometimes at the same time, being the guy at the top, you have to be willing to. You have to make the decision. No, I get that.
Yeah, you have to be willing to say overruled.
Well, especially when there's, I don't know how many voices there are now in admin chat, but 20-something voices, most of which speak at least the same language. But everybody's going to have a different take on that.
I have questioned it with like people like Callisti. Sometimes Callisti types something and I have to stop and read it again. And Callisti is American. I think he's actually English who lives in America.
Canadian English or something like that. I don't know. Something odd.
And sometimes you'll type something and I'll have to stop and read it again and go, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
I love the guy. I love him. But sometimes it just takes a minute. It's
the walls of text have, and not just Callisti, just in general, since I've become an admin, I have spent more time reading walls of chat text than I think I anticipated.
It's that waking up and it's like 300 plus.
And you're like, oh God, who did what now? And why do I care?
Who are we mad at now?
And then it's like, we're arguing not about the person anymore. We're just arguing about the potential, slippery slope of all of the league, coming down on one thing. And it's like, okay, let's reel this back in. What are we gonna do about this clown?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's what makes the admins brilliant, but it's still a lot of work.
It's a full-time gig.
Tell me, yeah. But seriously, so that's what we did. I threw it out to the admins, went, hey, this is the rules that I'd like to use. And yes, Clan League, I literally pulled the rules out of my ass. I wrote them from scratch. And on the whole, they seem to have been very well received. There are a couple of changes we'll be putting in next season, based on feedback.
I will say everybody sounds like they're having more fun in Clan this season, for sure. So it sounds like it's going in the right direction.
I definitely think so. We've got to nail some things on the head to stop so many Necro and Chorfs, because everybody hates Necro and Chorfs and there's bloody thousands of them. But but yeah, I mean, I didn't pull this rule set out of nowhere. I mean, I literally scoured the internet for about 2 days and read up over actual rules that I'd seen play in tournaments. And this was the one that I felt was most unique and rebel-y, and still, I like when it comes to rule sets and creating rule sets, I like making people think a little and giving them options.
I'm right there with you. I like the idea of options. I just don't like low TV, but I get
it. Well, the World Cup's going to be played at low TV, unfortunately. So
I saw that too. Yeah. So, what are you? I know you're going to be playing. Are you willing to go on the air and say what you're leaning towards?
Right. I've been playing. I think I've been through 12 different rosters for probably about 8 different races at this point.
Sounds about right.
And I still haven't fully decided. I'd really like to play Bretonians. But I'm very concerned that because the rule set I pulled off was a tabletop rule set that was written pre-Bretonian tiering, and Bretonians have been tearing up. And you'll remember this, you know, in admin chat, one of the most hotly debated things we had beyond overtime and tiebreakers.
Red tiers.
God, why is it always tiebreakers? was what tier to put Bretonians in, because we had to figure that out from scratch. That wasn't done for us like the rest of the rules pretty much were. And Bretts are tearing up tabletop at the moment, so we went for tier 2, but I'm very concerned that if I play Bretts and maybe they should have been tier 1, yeah, and then I do well, everyone's going to point at me and go, "Oh, you played Bretts and he put them in a powerful tier," and I'm like, so it's not that at all.
Tryhard Superfed will say what I'm playing because it's not tier 1. And maybe I'm tipping my hand, but I've committed to it. I've made the team. I named the players. I'm gonna be going Skaven.
Oh, I like it. Skaven have been. I think I've ran 3 different Skaven rosters.
Before you say you like it, I have a Roger named Metal.
No, okay. I like everything apart from the naming scheme. I mean, no, you know what? I know I famously hate Rat Ogres, but I've also always conceded that in low TV res format, Rat Ogres are brilliant.
I think I've got a good plan for him. Yeah.
You're just going to stick him on the field, have him look stupid, and then go, "It's called metal."
Yep, that's part of it. That's always plan B.
I mean, literally, I was actually chatting on Andy Davo's stream this morning while he was getting unfortunately destroyed by Sean Man and G-Man. And I was like, you know, he was looking for a new player on his Dark Elf team because he had 2 die. And I just put in chat, I'd like to be on this team because it means that I'd at least be on one Rebel team where I'm not a Rat Ogre.
You mean I don't have original thought? Oh, that's not the first time.
Go talk to McNaughton and Chubstep. I mean, and Aldar. They're all over.
They're all metal rats.
Yeah, they're full metal Rat Ogres every time.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the event. I really am. I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a very stressful 6 weeks for a lot of people. And I think at the end of 6 weeks, we're probably not going to be happy with who's there, at least half of them. But we'll all agree and we'll all support them once they get to the actual World Cup event and be super jealous when one of our Rebel coaches gets an awesome prize.
Well, what I love is that if you think about it, with the Rookie League getting a ticket and us getting 4 tickets, 5 out of 64 of those coaches going into
are related
the
to us. Yeah.
Are basically from Rebel.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad shout and obviously anyone who's played Champs Ladder and done well down the line might have a shot as well.
Right.
Or plays Champs Ladder to still qualify.
And all the other leagues too. I mean, I personally am competing in Nats as well, so there's always the chance that somebody else from Rebel gets in on some other league too. So
yeah, absolutely. But I have had a bunch of the Rebel. I've a couple of people I've chatted to. I've said, like, you know, if you win multiple tickets, who would you go supporting? And everyone's like, Rebel.
Nice.
Even the Sage, and he's playing in, I think, 4.
Nice.
And he loves us, and it's like he'd be playing as a Rebel coach if he makes the World Cup. So,
see, I'd go the other way. I'd be like, oh, I'll take their ticket so another Rebel coach can get it, so we can stack the Rebel.
I think that's actually what he kind of said, was he'd consider himself a Rebel coach, but he'd take someone else's ticket so someone else from Rebel could go.
Right? That's how I'd do
it. Sounds a bit shady to me.
It's hyper competitive. That's why the team that I'm my team theme is Rebel Tryhards. That's why.
Oh wow, and I'm on it. Oh,
Metal Jesus. The Roger.
That feels counterintuitive, but we'll allow.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, it'll be fun. But
so like I say, there was a lot. I mean, anyone who looks at that, I know there's been people who've gone, I don't like these rules, or these rules seem complicated. Right? I think have a little look. We put a lot of time into basically testing every single angle of them, and give them a chance, because I think what we've seen, and you know, you've seen how many admins produce teams and went, you can do this with the rules, this race where we tested just about every race in the game, and you can do something with them unless you're probably playing Nurgle. But frankly, if you're playing Nurgle at low TV, you deserve to lose anyway. So sorry, dude.
I actually made a Nurgle that wasn't. I mean, it's just gonna lose to 1 in 9s, but that's every Nurgle early on. But that was still probably effective with 2 rerolls. I made a Goblin team that had Hail Mary pass on a Puppeteer and wrestle and block and all those fun things.
Well, by all accounts, we are likely to have Ravenpaw entering as goblins.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
Should be quite exciting.
That'll be awesome. See, and that'll be really fun. And I, recappers out there that are listening to this, I'm not going to ask you guys to do this, but doing replays of these games is going to be just a ton of fun. And if you can live stream, great. There'll always be a match because it is going to be, round the clock for 6 weeks straight. Well, longer than that, right? Because it's 6 rounds, so 2 weeks
6
around.
rounds across 2 weeks
so
around.
12 weeks of just crazy Blood Bowl.
There's still going to be 60 to 75 games being played each round.
That's awesome.
From numbers, so it's not. Yeah, it's no small amount, and I know that our content teams. I know I'm going to cover as many as I can, especially some of as you get deeper in, when the 300 coaches start coming together. That's going to be where it's going to get very exciting.
Well, and I know people don't like to step on toes, and so if a match is getting streamed already, they don't want to cover it. But there's going to be so many opportunities where if you've thought to yourself, I'd like to try this streaming thing, or maybe you just want to get more involved with the playoffs, this is the chance to kind of make yourself better as a caster, or to show what you can kind of do. And so I hope everybody takes advantage of it.
Try and figure out what you can do, because a lot of people don't know until they try, right?
Right, exactly.
And even if you just, honestly, genuinely, the radio channels on Discord, they give them some love. If you think, I don't want to sit here and talk into a camera or whatever, try faffing around.
ArchXL has been doing some good stuff.
He's so good. I love it. I actually built the pirate channel with him in mind because I knew it'd be full of pirate jokes because it's ArchXL.
It's good. I love that. It's so perfect. Well, that's awesome. Well, I think before we kind of wrap this up, because we are closing in on the hour, and I think the hour is the sweet spot for this. Maybe even shorter, just depends. But
we found, well, I mean, to be fair, we've had a very different format this week.
And 2 interviews, basically, yeah.
45 minutes to an hour is actually quite watchable. Anything longer, and it's just like, Jesus.
Yeah.
A novel.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just as a closing question, let's talk about the future of Blood Bowl 2, Rebel, and where we see this all going. So in my opinion, before following that up, is just Blood Bowl 2 is a niche game. Tabletop is kind of very niche as well, or niche. And it is a relatively small community. The size of Rebel and the pace that we have grown, to me, is just unfathomable, and certainly unsustainable. But yet it keeps going. And so what I want to ask is how. So we can talk about the future thing, but also, who have you brought into Rebel? And this is going to be a question that I'm going to be talking about going forward, and it'll be a little different with you, but. Who have you talked about Blood Bowl with? Who have you considered bringing in a Rebel, or what kind of recruitment efforts, or that kind of thing? I don't know. Do you see where I'm going with it?
Yeah, it's just right. I think you talk about how it's growing and things. It's literally because I don't know how to say stop. Right, and this is something I actually had this conversation with Zunk after last season. I don't know if you've been on Andy's channel, but Zunk obviously now has a new full-time job, so he's been looking for co-casts and things. So I've been doing that a little bit, hanging out on that channel. And Andy and Zunk are both top dudes. I love both of them to bits. They're brilliant to chat to. Especially because obviously Zunk is from the Northeast, which is where all good Englishmen are born. Ask Harrington, he'll agree. But and he's like, you keep growing, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm not, why stop? Yeah. And he's like, well, everybody else kind of just goes, we want X amount of coaches, and then closes recruitment, and you've seen this. We just go, okay, well, we can handle it.
We'll make it work.
Get some more. We'll find a way. Shove them in. 10-man division and a Swiss at the end. That's fine as long as it works.
Yep.
And I kind of just don't see what the time that we stop is when my admins go, we can't handle anymore, and I can't find any more crazy people to be admins. Because at the moment, it was getting there last season where we were like 325 coaches or whatever, and it was like, we can't really handle anymore. And then I put admin applications out, and we found and we made you a full-time admin as opposed to doing what you were doing. We made Gerber a full-time admin when he basically was anyway. Things like that. And then we took on about, 8 new admins through the admin applications, and suddenly we can handle the extra workload again. And boom, we go up to 370 coaches because, again, we don't see a reason to stop. And the time that we stop is when I either can't find crazy people who want to do it, or people stop applying.
I don't know if you know this, but you basically just gave me a Sun Tzu answer. It's a matter of organization. Controlling an army of 10,000 versus an army of 100. It's the exact same. It's just a matter of organization.
But that's it, though. I mean, that's kind of just you stop when you can't handle it anymore, right? And we can, as we're hopefully proving.
Awesome. Yeah, and so I think at this point I'm saying we want to keep this growing. I think the league is only getting better the more people we get in it.
That's the other thing is, right, I don't know if I say no to a coach if they're going to become the next Haringzord or the next Superfedtv and come, just some coach who has just this one really good idea that spins everything. Like you've seen playoffs, right? Everyone's, I work my ass off to source these incredible prizes, right? Let's not pretend. I mean, I love the playoff prizes. Are amazing.
I know where you're going.
And everyone's waving their hands going, well, yeah, I could have this 70 quid pro painted miniature, or I could have a 2-minute video.
The hype video
is top 8.
It's become its own prize and its own mission. Like let's put it this way. When I re-roll off my orc team, and part of the reason I didn't re-roll was because I have a hype video now and I can play that this season when I do my matches or whatever. But when I make my new team, I will be actively considering what the hype video would look like. And I think other people are going to start doing that too.
Can I make a naming scheme that works for a hype video?
Right?
What music would Haringzord use if he did this?
And who would have ever thought that 2 seasons ago?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like I say, right? Haringzord himself came out of nowhere, and he didn't. He's not been in the league as long as people think he has. I think he only joined about season 4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was right before me, but I remember the Rotter reports.
Yeah, exactly.
And reading those and being so just enthralled with them.
Yeah, he did them off his own back. No one asked him to do that. He kind of just messaged me and went, I want to do this. Can I do it? And I went, well, of course you can. Make content. And that is, I will never say to someone, don't make content. Or Monkey Chunk. What if we say no to the next Monkey Chunks and we suddenly, he basically off his own back created the Big Observer, which then led to the G manual, and there's an upcoming rel paper that is being launched because there's a guy called, oh Jesus, I'm gonna butcher his name. It's Gypsy Prince, right?
Gypsy Prince and Nocturnal and Larkstar.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many dedicated people making content. That what if I say no to someone who is that new guy? No, never gonna do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this and running the league and just being an awesome chap. I don't know. I always think do people just sit there and go, "Oh God, it's metal again"? Because I know I'm quite active on Discord, but it's one of the things that keeps me sane a lot of the time. Yeah.
Because obviously I am essentially a full-time stay-at-home parent and things, and it's nice to be able to talk to people that aren't 3-year-olds.
Well, and we certainly didn't get into the heavy stuff because we could have. And you've definitely just been an all-around awesome guy with all that as well. So, yeah, just thank you.
I just like the league. It's you're all great people on the whole. There's a couple of people that I sit there and go, oh my God, he's causing trouble again. Or just stop it. come on, listen for 5 minutes to some advice. But on the flip side, like genuinely, I love chatting to you guys, to everyone. And you know, you'll see me. I've always got time to, you know, I'll always try and make time if a coach comes to me, and you know, it might say like I'm the boss at the top, but I'm really just another dude, right?
Right.
And it's the Supreme Overlord role was a massive joke between me and Gamba. I mean, I'm really geeky and nerdy and love silly titles. Like when I made Major Bite his own role, he's the Grand Librarian of Discord or something. Because to me, that's funny, right?
Yep.
It's not because like, basically it was just a role so he could do all of the behind the scenes stuff on Discord that I don't know how to do because I'm not actually that techie. And you know, I'm a massive nerd who just loves hanging out and chatting Blood Bowl with other massive nerds. So that's why I'm never going to stop unless the missus basically goes, it's me or the league.
I'll just hint. You know, a streaming career might have reached a resolution very similar to that at one point, but Blood Bowl is definitely really fun, and when measured appropriately is really just great. So and you're a big reason of that. So thank you so much for all you do.
I mean, that means a lot. And thank you for resurrecting this format because I genuinely love it. I do love the interview thing and chatting to coaches and find out all this random stuff about people you wouldn't necessarily expect, but I just haven't had the time to do it.
Yeah.
Which is such a shame.
Yeah, it's good.
Thank you very much.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe you'll take it back from me later. Well,
I hate this, but I hate this. I'm doing it myself.
Yep. We'll see. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of the league, and stay classy, as he would say.
Oh my God, you stole my line.
I'm not stealing it. Don't worry. Just because it's this episode, I won't be saying that in the future.
if you want to, you can.
No, I'm not a classy guy. We all know I am not a classy guy.
Yeah, we've seen the team theme. Jesus.
We're not going to fool ourselves into thinking that I am. All right. Take care.